Good morning. It is Friday the 13th. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. I hope your day is off to a great start. I'm not superstitious, but in the words of Michael Scott, I am a little stitious. Anyway, we're going to jump into our forecast across the country. We've got so much to talk about. Some of the topics from the weather desk here at 13 News Now. Plus, we're going to cover this story that's kind of developing out in the western U.S. They've been in a bit of a snow drought. Now, there has been some snow for the Sierras, so we'll talk about that as well. But the dry conditions and the snow drought that's been taking place over some of the high country out west may lead to more fire danger, maybe an earlier start to the wildfire season. We're going to be watching that very, very carefully. We'll have an update and a story on that in just a bit. As I mentioned, there is some snow for the Sierras. We'll take a look at dry conditions across the country with the U.S. Drought Monitor coming up as well. We're going to talk about what's up with the wind here in the mid-Atlantic. You know, we've got this proposed offshore wind farm that they've been working on, Dominion Energy, and we've got these massive windmills that they've started to put in, some of those offshore. What makes this region windy and what's going on with it? We'll talk about that. Massive tree planting project down along the Gulf Coast. Would you believe that's a huge project that may actually help protect the coast a little bit? Areas that suffered damage from Hurricane Katrina. Think about how long ago that was. We have areas that are still a little more vulnerable than maybe they should be, coastal areas, and this tree planting project should help with that. So we'll update you on that situation. NASA has sent a new crew on the way to the International Space Station. They launched this morning. We'll show you the launch. We'll talk about what's going on with the ISS. And then we've got your weekend outlook. We'll talk about rain chances. And I'll show you the national outlook for Valentine's Day as well. So plenty to cover on today's Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller, and it is a pleasure to be with you. I'm so glad you found us here on 13 News Now Plus. Maybe you're watching on YouTube. We're glad you're here as well. Let's get into our topics. So we're going to start off by focusing on this snow drought. You do see the snow out to the west over the highest elevations up around the Tetons and the Rockies there up into Wyoming. There's still been some decent amounts of snow over portions of Idaho, but some other parts of Utah there, south of Salt Lake as you come down along the Wasatch, not a lot. We're not seeing as much for parts of California. You can see there has been a lot of snow over the Sierras, and we'll update you on the outlook there. But some of the areas that really depend on heavy snow have gotten some, but not enough. So you think about it, while the East Coast has been dealing with the brutal cold and the back-to-back winter storms, it's been a different story on the West Coast. ABC's Sophie Flay explains how the snow drought could impact several states for months to come.
In parts of the Mountain West, the view this winter has looked more like spring. And there's concern. Even future storms may not alleviate the snow drought gripping the region. Unprecedented warmth has left snow cover at the lowest level in decades.
Just a matter of not enough snow, not enough precipitation. It's a matter of the temperatures being so high. It's kind of a double whammy here.
In Colorado, the snowpack is only 57% of the average level. The Florida Panhandle seeing more snow this season than Salt Lake City. The lack of white powder threatening to melt the winter economy. Vail Ski Resort operating with just 69% of its terrain open. Breckenridge just 60%. Experts warn the region is now primed for an early and aggressive wildfire season. With the upper Colorado River Basin at the heart of this drought, millions could face higher water bills and strict water usage limits in the months ahead. A low-pressure system developing over the Four Corners region is expected to bring a wintry mix to higher elevations today. But with deficits this deep, water managers warn they'll need a lot more than one storm to save the season.
We just have to be very, very judicious, very careful, and strategic about how we manage the resource.
In parts of the plains, the dry ground posing a more immediate danger. This massive grass fire burning in Oklahoma. Rain is expected in that region later today.
Sophie Flay, ABC News, New York.
Something we will certainly be keeping close tabs on over the coming weeks and months as we get closer to the warmer season, we start worrying about wildfires. It is interesting, and we're going to get to the drought monitor coming up in just a little bit, but California, you know, we were celebrating the fact that for the first time in a couple of decades, they were actually not under drought. So they've had a lot of moisture along the West Coast, but obviously some of the mountainous western U.S., Utah into Colorado, some of those resorts coming out on the low end of those snow totals, and that's why they have that snow drought there. Now, you can see what's going on in the Sierras as we zoom in. This is one of the areas that has seen a lot more snow. You can check this out. After a drier than normal January, snow has returned to the Sierra Mountains. This is a look at fresh powder at one of the mountain resorts in Soda Springs. That's about 45 minutes or so from Tahoe. Resort workers are hoping this snow will give their snowmaking machines a break, at least for a few days. You know, those.
We were able to turn on the guns, and we've been blowing snow up here every time that it's cold enough for us to be able to do so. So we've been able to keep a nice fresh blanket on top of everything. That storm in January got us up to 100% open. That's every chairlift, every run, and we've just been waiting, and now Mother Nature's back once again, and it is snowing.
Yeah, those industries really rely on the snow, and I know they're excited. They can work around it with the snowmakers, but it's not the same as fresh fall. The region is now reported between 3 and 10 inches of snow, and it brings the statewide snowpack to 55% of normal. So, again, they've got a little bit of snow, but they're still below average. As we take a look here, I wanted to talk to you about the chances for some more snow, though, for the western U.S. And again, you can see a storm system. We'll focus a lot on this later in the show, as this is going to produce a lot of rain across the southeast and into our region. But we do have a storm system that should bring some wet weather as we look ahead to early next week with the GFS model. You'll notice the snow over the Sierras across Nevada. And then as it works westward, eventually we're going to see it into Utah and Colorado for early next week. So there is at least some snow in the forecast to look forward to. All right, let's talk about the drought situation. And as we do, I mentioned California's actually been in pretty good shape with that atmospheric river that brought so much wet weather to the Washington coastline and portions of Oregon. There are some dry areas, but this was an area that was extremely dry, and we had widespread drought, you know, a year or so ago, and that's changed up now because of all the moisture that they had late last year and early into the winter season. We just had so much rain going on there. Now what we're finding, still very dry conditions across parts of Utah and back into Colorado. We mentioned back over the Rockies, they do have extreme drought in some areas. But again, the West Coast not looking too bad. Parts of Montana, they are seeing a severe to extreme drought. That exceptional drought here right along the Rockies. This is an area that does need the rain. That's the story we just had from Sophie Flay reporting on their drought situation. As you can see, there are areas kind of dotted through the central U.S. from South Texas, many areas under extreme drought. Parts of Oklahoma. You get into northern Arkansas, there you see extreme to exceptional drought, and there are some spotty areas across Illinois into Indiana and Ohio. Florida, much of Florida, which we were reporting how dry the wetlands are down around the Everglades, starting to dry out as well. So they need rain across Florida into South Georgia, portions of South Carolina and North Carolina. For Hampton Roads, we're in moderate drought. We need some rain. We're going to get some coming up over the weekend, Sunday into early Monday. But you can see we're not alone in needing it. Central portions of Virginia and North Carolina are really under severe drought. So while we're in moderate drought here in our immediate area, Southeast Virginia, you head into some of the western parts of our viewing area, out to the west of Franklin, Southampton County, parts of Hertford County, Bertie, and Northampton, North Carolina, all the way out through I-95 and areas west of that. Severe drought for those locations. Again, we do need some rain. All right, we're going to talk about those rain chances. As I mentioned, Sunday, I expect there to be numerous areas and numerous periods of steady rain, moderate to heavy at times. So it's looking like we could see over an inch in many locations. We could use that into early Monday, and then things dry out again with just low chances after that. Temperatures will be warming up. Here in Hampton Roads, no rain today, and it has been a little windy, you know, at times over the past few days and over the weekend. We talk about those winds. You take a look at the peak wind gusts yesterday, and they were gusting 20 to 25 miles per hour. Virginia Beach had a gust of 28. There was a gust of 38 miles per hour up in Wallops. Not as much wind today. We've seen some gusts, 20 to 25. But this is an area where winds frequently kick up. And Chief Meteorologist Tim Pandages explains what makes this region a wind hotspot.
If it feels like it's always windier here than just about anywhere else in Virginia, you're not imagining it. Hampton Roads is a natural wind hotspot. The first reason, the open water. We're surrounded by the Chesapeake Bay, wide rivers, and the Atlantic Ocean. Wind can travel long distances over water with very little friction, so by the time it reaches land, it's already moving fast. Second, lack of terrain. Unlike areas west of us, we don't have hills or mountains to slow the wind down. Flat land means the air keeps its speed all the way to the surface. And third, the coastal jet effect. When winds move from land toward the warmer water, or when cold air pours out over the ocean behind a cold front, the air can actually accelerate along the coast, creating stronger and more frequent gusts. Put it all together, open water, flat land, and coastal acceleration, and Hampton Roads ends up in the fast lane for wind on both stormy and sunny days. For 13 News Now, I'm Chief Meteorologist Tim Pandages.
All right, Tim, some great information there. All right, we're going to turn our attention from Hampton Roads back out to the southeast U.S., specifically down into Louisiana, where conservation groups are wrapping up a 4-year project to plant 30,000 trees. Take a look. The trees will better protect shorelines near New Orleans from storm surges, preventing future erosion and saltwater intrusion. Remember, the city lost much of its natural barrier during Hurricane Katrina back in 2005. The goal is for the roots of these native trees to hold the earth around the whole area down there around New Orleans in place as the city slips further below sea level. The groups taking part in the recovery project expect to hit their 30,000 tree goal by next year. That's something. All right. Well, we're going to take a short break. Coming up in just 2 minutes, NASA is sending its new crew up to the International Space Station. We'll show you the launch, talk about that, and I've got the Valentine's Day outlook and the severe weather outlook for the weekend. That's coming up. Welcome back to the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller, and we're broadcasting from the 13 News Now studios in Southeast Virginia. Want to talk about NASA and what's going on, because right now a new group of astronauts is heading to the International Space Station. NASA launched Crew-12 from Cape Canaveral, Florida this morning. Check it out.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition, and liftoff. Go Falcon, go Dragon, and Godspeed Crew-12.
And liftoff. Freedom flies bound for the International Space Station. 1.7 million pounds of thrust now propelling Falcon 9 and Crew-12.
I never get tired of watching launches. I just think it's the coolest thing. There are 4 astronauts on board that rocket. Their arrival will bring the orbiting laboratory back to full staff after a month of operating with a 3-person skeleton crew. You may remember last month, Crew-11 had to leave the space station weeks early due to a medical concern with one of the astronauts. Crew-12 should arrive at the space station tomorrow. All right, let's take a look at what's going on nationally. We're going to get into the Valentine's Day weekend and what's going on. We'll start off with a look at the national picture, and you can see some wet weather coming together back in the southwest. We can take this full. I like to do that so you get a good look at the map here, what's happening. Our severe weather outlook, that wet weather that you're seeing out around the Four Corners, that's a developing system that is going to press to the east, and as you can see, this area identified in the light green from southern Kansas through Oklahoma and down through western Texas, that area is under a level 1 or marginal threat for severe storms. So you might be wondering, well, what are the threats? It's really not tornadic today. As we take a little closer look, you can see across Oklahoma from just south of Wichita there in southern and southeast Kansas through central Oklahoma, Lubbock and San Angelo, Texas, there are the opportunities for some stronger storms to develop. I think, you could see some larger hail. There is that kind of level 1 threat for hail, and then also some winds, some gusty winds around Lubbock and again San Angelo and back up through Oklahoma City. So the hail threat extends up through Wichita, but the wind threat is primarily from Oklahoma City down through Lubbock and then into the western parts of Texas. Now, as we go through the overnight and head into Saturday, look at how this shifts. I can come back out on camera. I just want to show you guys, again, what's going on here from central portions of Texas, Dallas down through Houston, back over towards New Orleans and up through Jackson, Mississippi. We have this level 1 threat. As we take a look at the concerns here, again, it is wind, a level 1 threat for that entire area that is outlined. That's going to be the primary threat. This is a little different, though. There is the potential for some larger hail, especially on the western portions of this. As you go farther east, the hail threat's not as great there. But there's also the risk of isolated tornadoes. So it's just that first tier, that slightly higher risk, but it's still out there. So an isolated tornado cannot be ruled out anywhere from Dallas down through Houston, back across central Texas, and then back into Louisiana. This would include Waco and Austin, back out towards Abilene. It is north of San Antonio, but it extends all the way over to the western portions of New Orleans, Alexandria. Obviously, you see that just south of Jackson and just west of Hattiesburg. Lake Charles also included in that area with that slightly elevated risk for tornadoes. As we look forward to our Sunday, now we got to look at this shifting a little farther to the east. And the Storm Prediction Center doesn't put out categorical threats, as far as wind, hail, or tornadoes specifically, but I would venture to say that there would be the risk of tornadoes and gusty winds in this area. Probably not as great a hail threat with this particular round of storms as we get into Sunday, but this whole area from Tampa up through Jacksonville, throughout the panhandle of Florida, southwest Georgia, southern Alabama, and southern Mississippi down through New Orleans. You want to be mindful if you're going to be there on Sunday, as we could see some stronger storms. We will, of course, keep a close eye to that. And again, that includes Panama City and Pensacola. A lot of folks here in Hampton Roads have interest down there with the jet base and, again, all of our naval interests and military interests. As we take a look nationally, you can see the wet weather again back across parts of the Four Corners region. A little bit of snow for portions of western Colorado and southern Utah. Not a lot, just a little bit, and rain coming together there. As we take a look at the forecast for Valentine's Day, I want to do this nationally. You can see we're going to be in great shape here on the East Coast. There'll be unsettled weather with those stronger storms back across Texas. A little unsettled weather up across the Northwest. We'll give you some cities here and expect temperatures to be close to 61 around Raleigh, 63 in Atlanta, more clouds there. Cleveland, nice but chilly. New York City, 45, partly cloudy. Boston, 41. That's actually a bit milder for those locations. Remember, they've been in the deep freeze, it seems like, all winter. Orlando, 79, looking good, mostly sunny there. In the central part of the country, storms in Houston, rain in Dallas, Oklahoma City, Little Rock. St. Louis could see some wet weather, so not the most beautiful of Valentine's days across this part of the country. Omaha looking better, Chicago 52 and 50 in Minneapolis. Out west, Denver enjoying the sunshine, although again, they could use some more snow over the mountains. I think they get that into early to middle parts of next week, as I showed you the GFS model a little earlier. You can see down in Vegas looking good. Phoenix, 74 and sunny. Salt Lake, 54. Some more clouds for the West Coast, San Francisco and LA, and a little unsettled in the Pacific Northwest. That's your Valentine's Day outlook. For us here at Hampton Roads, we're looking at a high Saturday around 55. A lot of sunshine, very pleasant. We'll take it. The wind's not too bad. They're going to come around to the southwest and the west at about 5 to 10 miles per hour. On Sunday, rain develops, and you know what? We need the rain. This is going to be a beneficial thing for Hampton Roads. As I showed you, we are in moderate drought. Right now, it is sunny as we check in with the Thompson Creek Window Company, the sky view here from Nauticus. And you can see we're looking across the Elizabeth River. That's the Naval Station, or the Navy Hospital over in Portsmouth. So, and there's the old Naval Hospital right there. So things looking good across Hampton Roads and the Elizabeth River. Temperatures inland in the lower 30s. We have low to mid 30s. Closer to the coast, looking pretty good. It is chilly. Temperatures today will top out close to 40, maybe 41 degrees. Officially, it will be a little warmer inland. All right, here's the satellite and the radar images. We've got high pressure here, and that is going to be the dominant feature. As it slides overhead tomorrow and slides offshore on Sunday, we'll eventually see some clouds pushing in. And we can do this with our futurecast, show you how the clouds are going to increase late in the weekend. Not today, though. Today's sunshine, we'll welcome that as we go through the day on Saturday. Starting off cool, low 20s inland, upper 20s near the coast, and the clouds will push in as we go overnight Saturday night and into early Sunday. Until then, expect a lot of sunshine across the region for Saturday, and those highs in the mid to upper 50s across much of the area. Still a little cooler up on the eastern shore, mid to upper 40s there. But in general, things are looking really nice for our Saturday. Here come the clouds, and by Sunday morning, I expect mostly cloudy skies. Temperatures will be milder. We're still looking at a southwest wind, but it's not going to warm up a lot. We'll make it up into the maybe low 50s, right around 50 at the airport. Slightly warmer downtown Norfolk. Rain moves in as we go past noon. Initially, just a few spotty showers. The rain will be steadier and more widespread later in the day, and there should be some pockets of heavier rain as that low pressure tracks by and then pulls off early Monday morning. Few wraparound showers. Notice a few wet snowflakes potentially on the northern fringe of that. Once you get up to the northern neck, you might see a few wet snowflakes, but at this point, it looks like a rain event for Hampton Roads. Out on the bay today, we have a small craft advisory for about another half an hour. We've been under that this morning. You'll notice the winds are going to get lighter for both the bay and the ocean as we go later in the day. That's why you see it going from 20 to 5 knots and from 25 to 10 knots out on the ocean. Seas only about 2 to 3 feet. Occasionally, you might see a 4-footer. Low tide comes at 12:30 this afternoon, and we'll see the conditions improving as those winds go lighter. Temperatures today, as I mentioned, ranging from upper 30s to mid 40s across the area. I think officially around 41 or so. 42 in Hampton, Newport News, 44 in Williamsburg. But we'll see low to mid 40s back for Gloucester, a little cooler at Matthews and cooler on the eastern shore. That seems to be the case quite a bit. We've got mid 30s up that way. Down at the Outer Banks, upper 30s, lots of sunshine, but it is still chilly. Low to mid 40s around Elizabeth City, upper 40s, Edenton and Hertford. Tonight's low is going to fall back down to about 29 with mainly clear skies. The winds will shift from the southeast to the southwest at about 5 miles per hour. As we go through the day on Saturday, west winds 5 to 10, pushing the highs into the mid 50s. That sounds really good, and it's going to feel good out there. If you like the warmer weather, we'll have to take a step back Sunday with the rain developing. That continues Sunday night. Early Monday morning, the rain pulls away. Partial clearing later on Monday. Tuesday looks pretty good, partly cloudy. And look at the warm up as we get into Wednesday, back up to 60 and low 60 for Thursday. So we actually have a few days where temperatures will be close to normal and then above average for Wednesday, Thursday, and really Friday of next week as well. It's going to be nice to get that warm up, something we haven't really been able to enjoy very much around Hampton Roads, that's for sure. Want to remind you, you can always get the latest news, traffic, and weather on the go with the 13 News Now mobile app. All you have to do is scan that QR code, and that will take you to where you can get that load or download that app. It is free. It is going to send you, if you so desire, you sign up and activate it, you'll get push alerts on breaking news, traffic, and weather. You'll have access to our radars. Just a great resource to stay connected to our forecasts and our entire team here at 13 News Now. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of the Weather Desk. Don't forget, tomorrow, Valentine's Day. Here in Hampton Roads, it looks pretty good. Hopefully you can take advantage of that. As we get into Sunday, it's going to be wet. And then we'll look forward to that warmer weather next week. Right now, we're looking forward to a nice weekend. Have a great one, and we'll see you next week right here from the Weather Desk.